Did we do it? We're live? I think we are, guys, and good to have you here on this wonderful St. Patrick's Day. I was getting a little nervous that I may not be able to make it to air because I've been traveling and this, that, and the other, but what do you know? Here I am. That's the good news. The bad news is really coming for one Adam Schiff and a few others. Adam Schiff, Liz Cheney, maybe Fauci, Adam Kinzinger, Hunter Biden, you name it. This is not a good day for them. I like St. Patrick's Day to be a very festive one, but I have a feeling that this auto pen thing is going to come back to haunt them in more ways than one. Now, you may have heard some rumblings about this one. Donald Trump coming out and saying, you know what? He's had it with the auto pen. The auto pen is not actually valid, and that would make all those auto signatures on something like J6 null and void. Null and void. Take a look. I want you to see the president speaking on Air Force One about this right before he issued, late last night, early this morning, you could say, again, happy St. Patrick's Day, before he issued his declaration that they're null and void. Here he is talking to reporters about it.
We have thousands of murderers that Biden and his incompetency, first of all, he's grossly incompetent, but that Biden and his people and his probably auto pen. It looked like we had an auto pen for a president, and we would have been better off if we had, probably. But it looks to me like, that's a big subject. I'm sure you won't ask about that, but the whole subject of auto pen, did he know what he was doing? Did he authorize it? Or is this somebody in an office, maybe a radical left lunatic, just signing whatever that person was? That's not what it's all about. I never use it. I mean, we may use it as an example to send some young person a letter because it's nice. We get thousands and thousands of letters and letters of support for young people, for people that aren't feeling well, etc. But to sign pardons and all of the things that he signed with an auto pen is disgraceful.
Okay, so let the games begin. Here we go. He wrote at like 12:35 this morning, the pardons that Sleepy Joe gave to the unselected committee of political thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect because of the fact that they were done by auto pen. In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them! Exclamation point. The necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Biden. He knew nothing about them. And the people that did may have committed a crime. Therefore, those on the unselect committee who destroyed and deleted all evidence obtained during their 2-year witch hunt of me and many other innocent people should fully understand that they are subject to investigation at the highest level. The fact is that they were probably responsible for the documents that were signed on their behalf without their knowledge or consent by the worst president in the history of our country, and that would be Joe Biden. Okay, wow. So what's interesting here is that, they're going to have to prove this. They're going to have to prove this, and that's going to be tricky for them. But think about this. Historically, the way it's written in the Constitution, the president is actually supposed to actually see the physical documents when he is signing them. And so the whole robo-sign thing, it first came into play when the technology was there from George Bush, but George Bush wouldn't use it. It didn't come into play until Obama came along, and Obama wanted to go on vacation, of course. Okay, so he's out on vacation. He started using this thing. And then it went into high gear like we've never seen before under one Joe Biden, because let's face it, Joe Biden, I don't know, seemed to go to bed at 4:00 every day, right? Would cancel all these events all the time. I mean, Joe Biden wasn't really always there. Spirit Phil, good to see you again back here. Thank you so much for your generosity. And I want to say, Edgar Pomeroy, thank you so much as well. I appreciate the compliments. Happy St. Patrick's to you guys. Okay, so now he's saying these things are null and void. So what does that really mean for all those people on the J6 committee? What does it mean for Fauci? What does it mean for all the family members, right, of Biden? I think it means they're up for grabs. I mean, he also sent this thing out yesterday. This was great over the weekend. The picture of him when he was there in office, the picture of the robo sign when Joe Biden was in office, and then he's got the lovely picture of him that was gotten down in Georgia, right? Fulton County, Georgia, because of none other than Fani Willis and her team, her wonderful team. She just got hit, you guys. this is great. We're going to get to this story in a little bit. She just got hit with a $54,000 fine because she was withholding evidence. What do you know? The judge just slapped her, Fani, with that one. Anyway, this is a big deal. So the pardons that were given to all of these people could kind of be over, right? Again, if you look at these auto signatures, that's not the way historically it's been done. It's not how it should be done. And so they may have a legal case here. Did Joe Biden not really know what was going on? And was there some kind of anonymous staffer? I mean, we kept saying, like, who the heck is running the show? For 4 years, it was like, who's running this deal? I mean, everything that they came up with, you knew that Joe Biden wasn't going to work, and Kamala Harris certainly wasn't going to work. The borders are, right? Who couldn't even go to the border? So if nobody was actually doing their job, who was signing all these things? It was the robo-signature. And so there may be some more questions that are left that need to be unturned there overall. I do think that it's bad news for the likes of Cheney, and it's bad news for the likes of Adam Schiff, and it's bad news for the likes of, well, the family, et cetera, Hunter Biden, et cetera, because this is just not going to work.
To follow up on the Biden auto pen, are those executive orders, those pardons from the president now null and void?
Well, I think so. It's not my decision. That'll be up to a court. But I would say that they're null and void because I'm sure Biden didn't have any idea that it was taking place. And somebody was using an auto pen to sign off and to give pardons to, as an example, this is one example, but the J6 Unselect Committee. They gave pardons with an auto pen. I don't think Biden knew anything about it. And what they did is they deleted and destroyed all of the information that took them over a year to get. And the reason they did that is because the information was very incriminating about them. Like Nancy Pelosi was determined conclusively that she knew about 10,000 soldiers and turned it down. And if we used 500 soldiers, she would have had no problem, let alone 10,000. The young lady that said that I grabbed these powerful young Secret Service agents by the neck. Okay? You know that was a big hoax. It was a lie. And she admitted it. And they deleted everything. So, you know, what they did is criminal. I think we're about to land, everybody.
So now it's up to a court. As he said, it is up to a court to decide this one, but it's a big deal, okay? It's a big deal because it's actually never been done before. We've never, you know, especially when it comes to a pardon. Like when you're doing an actual pardon, that's one where you really should be physically signing it yourself. But was he in such bad health throughout his presidency? We've already learned, right? And the mainstream media has already come out and criticized the White House for having kept everything secret for so long. You weren't allowed to talk about his health. That was no go. That was, you know, fake news, this, that, and the other. We're like, no, here's the raw tape. You know, he doesn't seem to be doing that well. You want to actually debate this and say otherwise? Yeah, they did. They absolutely did. And that's all they did for 4 years until the bitter end. You know, if they were smart, they would have gone and found themselves some young whippersnapper, you know, and not gotten forced into the situation they were forced into with one Kamala Harris. But they're not smart. And that's why a new poll that I'm going to show you in just a little bit shows they are absolutely sinking to the lowest level they have ever had as a party, as long as people have been tracking this stuff, the lowest level in terms of popularity. It's really pretty stunning. Okay, but Liz Cheney, ladies and gentlemen, is in big trouble. Liz Cheney is one of the ones that actually got the pardon, but could be implicated in this in some really terrible ways, because one of the biggies that's come out is that she may have been involved in witness tampering. Do you remember these accusations the House was actually looking into because of this alleged witness tampering while she was on the J6 committee? She apparently went through a View host, right? So there's a woman on the View that's friends with Liz Cheney, that was friends with this girl that was going to be a witness. And so she decided, somehow the View lady decided that she would hook the two of them up. And so they had a conversation over text. The whole text has come out. It's been reported. I've reported on it. New York Post has reported on it. They had this text exchange back and forth, which means she could actually now be in a really bad spot because she may have actually been tampering with that witness. The House report found this. Alyssa Farrow is her name, the woman on The View, and she was actually acting as a go-between between this young woman and Liz Cheney, And eventually the two of them actually just corresponded directly. This is Casey Hutchinson. So eventually you had Liz Cheney and Casey talking directly together. And that is like a big no-no, because that is actually witness tampering. I mean, you're on the committee. And at the same time, what's amazing about it, you want to talk about being gaslit. Liz Cheney was out there trying to say, oh no, they're doing that. They're doing the witness tampering, and you can't witness tamper. That's really, really bad. Oh, well, she's doing it. Here, watch.
Very serious issue. And I would imagine the Department of Justice would be very interested in and would take that very seriously as well.
In fact, Cheney told me that the committee may make a criminal referral to the Justice Department recommending that anybody that attempted to influence witness testimony before the committee be prosecuted for witness tampering.
I just showed a little graphic while we were listening to that ABC reporter there talking about, oh, you know, they're going after everybody else for witness tampering, where Donald Trump back in December was saying, you know, she could be in a lot of trouble here. Well, she's in a lot of trouble. I would say, regardless of even the robo-sign thing, which is obviously a pretty darn big deal, but regardless of that, you know, once they were pardoned, I think that actually gave the other side, the Republicans, that would be a little bit more leeway to say, hey, we're going to haul them in and bring them in, because now you have to testify. And there are ways to go after them civilly. We have states, Texas, Florida, I'm looking at you, that could also go after them. So they're not necessarily free and clear. But let's just say right now, given this whole situation with the auto signature coming and robo-signing into play, they're really not in the free and clear. They're really in a lot of trouble. And Liz Cheney is going to be one of the ones hurt. The other one, the other biggie, well, you got Dan Bongino, my good friend, over at the FBI right now. Dan and I used to work together at Fox, and he's just a really terrific, wonderful guy. Maybe you guys used to watch his show. Oh, I'm going to get into the shot there. The Dan Bongino show, it just had its last day, I guess last week, and now he's off to the White House, actually the FBI. He's going to join Kash Patel there. And I want to point something out, because he said something in one of his last shows that I think is actually incredibly important for the moment we're in right now. Because now it looks like Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, Adam Kinzinger, they're not going to be able to go scot-free. And he has no use for this guy, Schiff. Shifty Schiff. And I don't either. I mean, you know, he's star of his own little Schiff show. Yeah. You know what I mean to say. Anyway, here's Schiff. I mean,
particularly good mood today.
Here's Dan.
Particularly good mood today. If you only knew. You ever hear that House on Fire song? It's one of his old songs. This guy's on fire, just like the Bailey. That house on fire. He is on fire, Schiff. Well, 100% success rate of failing. Why is Adam Schiff so worried? Folks, I strongly encourage you to go back and take another look today at the Russia collusion hoax. I know it's a story that's old and a lot of people want to move on. I'm going to be straight with you. I don't want to move on. We had the FBI in conjunction with the Department of Justice, officials in Congress, foreign governments, and intel people fabricate a story, invent a story that could have caused and done serious long-term harm to international relations with a nuclear-powered foe. It's kind of a big freaking deal. I'm not letting it go. And you listen to me. This is going to be very important in the coming days. I'm not letting this go. I want to find out what happened, because it can never happen again. Not to a Democrat, not to a Republican, not to a Libertarian, not to any United States citizen. You do not get to alter or try to change the course of electoral politics by fabricating a story, hijacking the justice system then to give the patina of truth to a fake story. You don't get to do that. Why do I bring that up now? Because who is the ringmaster of that circus? Yes, Adam Schiff. And no, I'm not letting it go.
So I'm going to tell you something. Knowing Dan, like, he's a dog with a bone, right? He's definitely not going to let it go. He is definitely going to follow through on this. And I would just say that if you go back to the very beginning, the Russia stuff, that was all Adam Schiff. Well, it was actually Hillary Clinton, right? I mean, you got to go way back. And it was Perkins Coie, the law firm that was representing the Hillary Clinton campaign. And they went out and hired Fusion GPS, which then went and hired Christopher Steele, who then went and hired a bunch of people, including a guy who actually we thought of our own FBI was believing to be a Russian spy. Haha, what do you know? I mean, you want to talk about where the real Russian spies were. Anyway, so this guy, Christopher Steele, comes up with this crazy report. I read it and I was like so stunned. I was like, why would anybody ever think this was real? Like, you'd have to be a complete moron to think this was real, because it reads like it belongs on the front page of the National Enquirer. And so it didn't read like any kind of piece of intelligence research. It read like a supermarket tabloid, which told me that was opposition research. Now, why is it that I'm just, a lonely little reporter here and I'm sitting there saying, okay, this is opposition research, but you got people like, Adam Schiff, who's supposed to be a big fancy representative from California, who wishes, the guy actually wanted to be an actor, wishes he was on TV, like playing someone other than Shifty Shift himself. Anyway, so why is it that he can't figure this? Well, he didn't want to, right? Like, he had a narrative. Hillary Clinton had a narrative. James Comey had a narrative. Hey, James Comey was putting out his honeypots every place he could. Right? They did not want Donald Trump to win, no matter what. They didn't want any Republican, let's be honest, to win. That's why if you talk to George Papadopoulos, who was the victim of a few of those honeypot things, I'm like, George, come on. 3 times, I think he told me. Anyway, it was on 2 different campaigns, including Ben Carson's campaign. So George's point to me, and you can go watch the interview on this channel, was that they were after whoever, right? They wanted to be embedded in whoever they thought stood a chance at winning. And so Comey was trying to gather intel. So you look at what really went down, and then Schiff trying to use this all to create this massive investigation, and then the impeachment thing, impeachment 2. I mean, enough already. And now at least the tables are turned, because Donald Trump went in there, dare I say, almost a little bit naively, thinking, okay, I'm president now. I want to do the right thing. I'm going to get everything going. I want to get rid of regulation. I want to help improve the economy. I want to do this, that, and the other. And he did get a lot of that done up until March 2020. We actually had the best growth in middle class incomes we had ever seen since the 1950s. You got to go back to JFK. So he's out there trying to do all this stuff, and then they're impeding him every single step of the way with this, that, and the other. So now Dan starts at the FBI. Today is actually his very first day. So again, I got to fix my shot there. Dan Bongino going over to the FBI. I'm telling you, like Adam Schiff, be on notice. These guys are lawyering up as we speak, and they have to lawyer up, because it's going to get really ugly for them really, really, really fast. You know who else it's going to get ugly for? One, Mr. Anthony Fauci. One, Mr. Hunter Biden. I think this scares some people. I think it scares some people, certainly in the mainstream media. Here's the captain of the mainstream media, one Jake Tapper. He sent this out today at 12:35 a.m. Eastern Time. It's weird that he mentions that. They're all like angry because the president stays up late. The president decreed that he was nullifying President Biden's preemptive pardons of members of the January 6th committee, an assertion of a power the Constitution does not bestow. Of course, he didn't actually say that he's making his position clear, right? But if we go back to the soundbite, didn't he actually say it's going to be up to a judge to decide this? Here's the reporter asking about the auto signs and whether or not, they're really going to be. And listen to what he says. This is important, because you see what the media is writing. The captain of the mainstream media, right? Jake Tapper, your favorite. I'm teasing. And then you see what the president actually said.
To follow up on the Biden auto pen, are those executive orders, those pardons from the president now null and void?
Well, I think so. It's not my decision that we have to accord. But I would say that they're null and void, because I'm sure Biden didn't have any idea that it was taking place. And somebody was using an auto pen to sign off and to give pardons to, as an example, this is one example, but the J6 Unselect Committee.
Okay, so, he's joking. For 4 years, you had an auto sign there. You didn't really know who was running the show. It's something, actually, I was reading in Matt Taibbi's newsletter today, which was a good little, let me just share with you what he said, because I thought this was rather telling, rather interesting. Matt Taibbi, he has like a Substack newsletter. He is a reporter over on well, just Substack, I should say. He used to be at Rolling Stone. And he said, you know, the thing is that back in the Obama day, this is what I was telling you earlier, guys, the coverage of the auto pen was an issue back then. Federal officials had long been anxious about its use, fearing exactly this sort of challenge to the legitimacy of White House documents. That makes coverage today describing the auto pen as ordinarily uncontroversial odd. So like they're going to sit there and say, oh, you know, this has never been done before. This is so terrible. And the point is that actually, like, this has always been controversial. It's never been cool. Like I was telling you earlier, right? George Bush actually created it, but he didn't use it. He didn't believe that he should use it. He never utilized an auto pen. That's pretty important. In fact, in one case, I'm quoting, he flew through the night to get to the White House in time to sign the Terry Schiavo bill. Article 1, Section 7 of the Constitution describes how bills must be presented to the president. And it means every bill must physically be presented to the president. So this whole auto sign thing, this doesn't really fly. And that means that, you know, Tapper can sit there and say, well, he doesn't get the constitutional power. And Trump can sit here and say, you know, these pardons are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect. And what this is going to come down to is the courts. Okay, so that's where it goes from here on out. It's going to go to the courts. And I just say, you know what? I wish them all luck. You know who I really wish a whole bunch of luck to? But no, I don't. I'm just kidding. That would be one Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci, who I'm realizing was one bad dude, right? Well, I mean, I think we all knew it. But I'm just saying, like, this is not looking good. When you have the New York Times, even the New York Times coming out and saying in a column now that scientists badly misled the public on COVID-19 origins. Remember that one, guys? Oh boy, I did a lot of reporting on that. I don't know how much you were able to see actually back in the day, but I'll tell you, that was pretty bad because I knew in February of 2020 that it had come from a Wuhan lab. I had sources within the, I guess you could call it the deep state, right? Who had told me that this came from the Wuhan lab. They were pretty convinced of that. They didn't buy the wet market theory, but that it wasn't necessarily deliberate. It was just really, you know, a shoddy operation, to which I've always said, like, why were we giving money vis-a-vis that NGO health thing, right? Why were we giving any money, even if it was only $600,000 that Fauci still won't admit to? Why were we giving them anything if we knew it was so shoddy? You know how we knew it was shoddy? Because the lab itself had been on TV in China, and the Taiwanese have actually found this tape, and I've run it on this program actually before, and they showed how the woman who ran that lab was so proud of all her scientists because somehow they never, ever, ever wore gloves. Like they would just, you know, deal with these bats, and they were like fearless, and this was considered a badge of honor. And I'd be like, wait a second, we're giving money to them? And they don't even wear their gloves? Are you kidding me? They're not following the proper scientific protocol? So why would we want anything to do with any of the people there? Why would we be, apparently we had a whole bunch of intel ops that were there, and, you know, somehow, I don't know, they kind of completely glossed over the fact that nobody was taking the necessary safety protocols. So anyway, what wound up happening is 3 people got sick from that Wuhan lab, and they wound up in the emergency room with all of the symptoms that one would have for this. And the media just took it, right? From Anthony Fauci and from the CDC, everybody, like Department of Energy, CIA, everybody was saying the same exact thing, that this was coming from a wet market. And if you dared to suggest otherwise, well, you know what happened. I mean, it was game over. It was game over. And so now we have learned that, yeah, you know, when it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And so in this particular case, it was. You better believe it was the actual lab. And yet Fauci got up there and lied to Congress. Remember the exchanges between him and Rand Paul? So I'm wondering if now Fauci loses his pardon too. Because if the auto signatures are all null and void, then it seems like you could go after him too. And I would say even if even if somebody's going to give him that pardon, which nobody should, but even if, you still ought to haul him right up there and ask all the questions, because as I said, if you've been pardoned, fine, you've been pardoned, but there's ways to still go after you civilly, and there are ways to go after you with states. And so it doesn't mean you're fully in the clear. And I think we need to get that all cleared up, don't you? I mean, look, people went through a lot. You know the people went through a lot. I mean, they shut down businesses. There are businesses that have still not recovered because of one Anthony Fauci. You know, Senator Eric Schmidt was on my friend Benny's show recently, and he said, we got to haul him back in. This was before the auto signature thing being declared null and void. This is, I want to show you Senator Schmidt from Missouri saying, you know, he owes everybody an explanation.
They were telling people you couldn't see a loved one when they were dying. You couldn't see your family during Christmas. This was insane, totally insane. And so Fauci's got a lot to answer to. And by the way, just because he's gotten the pardon, it doesn't mean he can't be compelled to testify, and he can't take the Fifth Amendment because he can't be prosecuted. So let's lay it all out there, and let's bring Fauci back in.
Yeah, let's. Credit to Benny for that one. Thank you. Let's. Right? I mean, the jig is up. Little reference to St. Patrick's Day to go with my green there. I mean, when even the New York Times is on to you, I'm sorry. You know, Fauci has to explain more of what went down. And we've got every single three-letter agency now coming out and saying, yep, it came from China, it came from China, it came from China. So that was a cover-up operation as well. And I'm telling you something, guys, you know what? When you sit there and you cover things up and you don't allow people to explore the truth, or even, find the truth, but like even explore it, right? Like you're not even allowed to talk about certain things, like that Hunter Biden laptop that we were not allowed to talk to. I'm living proof of it, right? Shared an article I shouldn't have, paid a price. I mean, wow. I mean, when you are shutting down an opportunity for people to speak candidly, that is a huge problem. And that's where we were. I mean, you want to talk about the Gestapo. You want to talk about a totalitarian government approach. That's what we lived through for 4 years. And now it's all going to get blown wide out into the open. Oh, and here's another headline coming to us just now. Elon Musk tweeting this one out. 12 biolabs have been refused funding by Congress. So that's a bit of a, FU, I guess, if you would, to one Anthony Fauci. But I think this has to go a whole lot further. I think it will. You've had 4 years on the sidelines there. Some really smart folks. Stephen Miller's one of them. Some smart attorneys over at Heritage. I always liked Project 2025. I always thought it was really smart. Donald Trump was like, well, this isn't really me. But they had some good ideas. And I think there are a lot of people there that have done some really strong research, and a lot of that is going to come to fruition right now. I want to get to the judge slapping one Fani Willis. Oh my goodness, Fani getting slapped with a $54,000 fine. But before we do, just a heads up to our favorite folks over at American Heart for Gold. You can get up to $15,000 right now in free silver. If you haven't done this, you've really got to take a look. Go to trishlovesgold.com today. Trish Loves Gold has a nice ring to it, especially on this St. Patrick's Day. The whole leprechaun story and all that good stuff. Anyway, go check them out. You can text my name as well to get more information about the $15,000 worth of free silver. Just text Trish, Trish, to 65532, or call them at 1-844-495-1115, up to $15K worth of free silver with qualifying gold purchases. Whoo, Fani, getting slapped. I can't help myself. Sorry. There's like a 10-year-old boy in there somewhere. Fani getting slapped. Fani, as they say. Fani Willis having to pay now a $54,000 fine. The judge hitting her with this one. She's ordered to pay this because she violated open record laws in the Trump case. This is a judge by the name of Rachel Krause down there in Fulton County saying that, you know what? You didn't turn over the records. That Fani Willis's office was intentionally hostile and intentionally violated Georgia's open record laws. You know Fani, right? The one that got the Fulton County portrait that President Trump so proudly displays in the Oval Office now. Fani, who gets really annoyed when we call her that, excuse my French, Fani.
While they over there running their mouth I'm over here paying them no mind. See, I'm so tired of hearing these idiots call my name as Fani in a way to attempt to humiliate me. Because like silly schoolboys, the name reminds them of a woman's rear.
Well, I'm sorry. It does, right? Like, I mean, maybe you should have changed it to something other than, I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. Maybe your parents made a mistake. Maybe maybe you should have gone by your middle name, whatever that is. No, we don't even want to speculate on that, right? Anyway, Fani Willis being ordered to pay $54,000 for violating these open record laws in the Trump case. This is the judge saying that Fani has to pay $54,264 in attorney's fees and litigation costs after, quote, intentionally failing to provide records requested by Ashley Merchant, the attorney who filed the motion to disqualify Ms. Willis from prosecuting Trump on charges of allegedly interfering with the 2020 presidential election. Crown stated that Willis's office failed to provide documents, this is according to a report there in Fox, related to the employment of Nathan Wade, the former special assistant district attorney, forced to resign from the Trump case due to his romantic relationship with Willis. Merchant believed that Willis and Wade may have financially benefited from Wade's appointment as the special prosecutor in the case. But you know, it was really hard for her to get any of those records, remember? Well, the reason it was hard for her to get the records was it turned out Fani was deliberately, quote, intentionally, according to the judge, failing to provide them. So she was obstructing justice and all of that, all while, you know, carrying on with this little goodie.
What is your current relationship with the district attorney?
Just as outlined earlier, we are great friends. We speak regularly. You know, the conversation has changed, though. You know, whereas before our conversations were about this case. I'm sure you could imagine and appreciate the amount of time that it takes, that you have to pour into a case a case of this magnitude, trying to prosecute those defendants. But our conversations have shifted to how are you handling the threats that are coming your way? Are you being safe? And democracy, the case will live on, kind of thing.
Just to clarify, when did the romantic relationship between the two of you start?
Yeah, so we get into. There's been this effort to say that, okay, these exact dates are at issue, and these exact dates are. I'm getting signaled here.
Okay, that was the moment in the interview when his lawyers stopped him. Interesting, right? So he's kind of doing the exact same thing, intentionally failing to provide information to the reporter in that case, who's just asking, well, when did the relationship start? Because, if the relationship started, which is what they've told us, or actually, no, maybe they haven't even told us that. Maybe that's just what we know, because there were like zillions of text messages, something like 30,000 text messages. It's like, gosh, you guys really like to text. And then there was all those visits to her condo. And this all came out because he was getting divorced from his wife, and the wife's like, hey. So all this information came forward, and so we know that he was having something going on with one Ms. Fani Willis, Fani Willis, for some time. And so if she went out there and hired her boyfriend, what kind of deal was that? Right? I mean, that and never disclosed it, that's pretty lousy. And then when she was up on the witness stand and was like, they were like, hey, did you know you had to do this? She said, no, I had no idea. And it's like, how can you have no, I mean, I get that she's not a very bright woman, but really, I mean, this is taking DEI too far. It's kind of amazing. They got these moron lawyers that proceeded forward with these really aggressive cases against a former president of the United States. And now they got egg all over their face. They get really stupid people doing these things. I got to tell you, this woman is not talented, at least not in the legal sense. We'd have to ask Nathan about the rest of it, right? Anyway, Make sure you subscribe, share, like. I have more stories to tell you about here today. Also, if you haven't gone over and checked out my 76 research, use code word $, sign up for the 76 research report. It's sort of my gift to you guys. I created this. It's a labor of love. And we just put actually a new note out for people who are interested maybe in a more aggressive kind of instrument. Anyway, 76research.com. Use code word $. We put it in the show notes for you as well. The media is right now just really upset, as you know, right? They're really, really upset about this null and void stuff. We heard from Tapper, all that good, and you're going to hear more of this. But the media is also really upset about this one, the Aliens Enemy Act of 1798. So Donald Trump is like, he's going wild. He's like, okay, I get this, I get this, I get this, I get this, I get this. That's what happens when you have 4 years to think about this stuff, right? And you get a talented group of lawyers that are thinking about how we can approach things in a new and different way. And he's got his friend down in El Salvador who's trying to make a whole business out of his prison system. He's so proud of it. He's talking on Twitter today, putting up all kinds of videos saying, hey, we're going to make some real money off of this. It means that our prison system is going to be actually a moneymaker for us in El Salvador. It may not be a big deal amount of money to the U.S., but it's a big deal amount of money to El Salvador. Well, Donald Trump was asked about this use of the 1798 Alien Enemies Act. Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to deport people that are enemies of the state, effectively. And he's like, listen, you're a gang member. We know you're a gang member. You're an enemy of the state. You're out. And this is what he's using. So he was asked about it today, yesterday there on the plane. Let's take a listen.
Well, this is a time of war because Biden allowed millions of people, many of them criminals, many of them at the highest level. They emptied jails out. Other nations emptied their jails into the United States. That's an invasion. And these are criminals, many, many criminals, murderers, drug dealers at the highest level, drug lords, people from mental institutions. That's an invasion. They invaded our country. So this isn't, in that sense, this is war.
Wow. So he's saying they have effectively declared war on us with this invasion. We're going to use this Aliens Enemy Act of 1798. And guess what? We're going to do it, and we're going to ask questions later. Right? So he's just sweeping these people out of the country. And that's exactly what he did overnight. He got them all on a plane. And now a judge is coming forward saying you can't do this. This U.S. District Judge James Borsberg, he's temporarily blocking the deportations because he wants to consider the implications of using the act. And he said in court that any planes already in the air carrying migrants need to be returned to the U.S. But it's kind of hard because, well, they already landed in El Salvador. So you get the president of El Salvador saying, oh, sorry, too late. And it's effectively what the administration is saying, too. I mean, how do you get them back now at this point? They weren't in the country legally. They were known criminals in this country. And I just got to say, like, it's sort of like you're putting the Democrats really in a bad spot, because if you're a Democrat now having to defend a gang member and say, I really want to keep these gang members here in the U.S. that have committed these horrible, horrible crimes, you're really going to lose the popular vote, so to speak, now, are you not? So the White House has responded to this judge saying, well, you know what? The administration did not refuse to comply with a court order. The order, which had no lawful basis, was issued after a terrorist, the group Tren de Aragua, which is from Venezuela, aliens had already been removed from U.S. territory. This is according to Caroline Leavitt in her statement today. She said, and I quote, "A single judge in a single city cannot direct the movements of an aircraft carrier full of foreign alien terrorists who were physically expelled from U.S. soil." So in the case of these particular individuals, they're gone. They're already in El Salvador. And our borders are. Tom Homan says, you know what? He doesn't care about this judge. He doesn't care about the judge issuing this ruling saying we need to wait. He's just there to clean up the border. Take a listen to him this morning on Fox.
Another flight every day. Teams are going to be out there every day. Every day, the men and women of ICE are going to be in the neighborhoods of this nation arresting criminal, illegal alien, public safety threats, and national security threats. Lawrence, you're not going to stop us. We made a promise to the American people. The President Trump has made a promise to the American people. We're going to make this country safe again. I wake up every morning loving my job because I work for the greatest president in the history of my life, and we're going to make this country safe again. I'm proud to be a part of this administration. We're not stopping. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what the left thinks. We're coming.
Yeah. I just love seeing you going through these protesters just crunching on the apple as their liberal tears just flood the hallway. Tom Homan, thanks so much for joining the program.
You remember that the other day when he went up to New York State? I showed you that on Thursday. I missed you guys Friday. I missed you again. I've been in transit. But I showed you that Thursday because he went up to Albany to really kind of fling it in the face of Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, and he's just munching on an apple as the protesters are screaming at him. And, because he's like, I don't give a damn. I just don't care. I am here to do one job, and that is to make America safe again. So this is amazing. The other thing that's amazing is that the judge knew to write this. Think about that. The judge actually knew to write this. How did he know? Tom Homan has a theory on that too, and he thinks it's another leak, which is super interesting, and I would not be surprised, and this is part of the problem that they're trying to confront. Here's Tom Homan explaining how it is that the judge was able to get this order out so fast.
So, Tom, I look at this judge. The flights were already in the air, in international waters. How did the judge get involved? Did these immigrants that were in the country illegally, did their lawyers get involved and make a petition to the judge? How did this happen? How did the judge know about the flights being in the air?
Again, information was leaked somehow. I don't quite know how it got leaked, but there was a court emergency court hearing on five people that were on schedule to be deported. The judge had a written order that said these 5 people can't be removed right now. It wasn't until this flight was already in international waters, heading down to El Salvador, that the judge made some comment about returning the flights. We're already in international waters. We're outside the borders of the United States. I'm the border czar. Once you're outside the border, it is what it is. But they're in international waters, already on the way south, close to landing. You know what? We did what we had to do. Remove terrorists, significant public safety threats from the United States. By the order of the proclamation by the President of the United States, we did the right thing.
Tom, you say that it was 5 that were on there where this emergency hearing was coming. So why is the judge asking for the entire flight to be returned?
Your guess is good as mine, Lawrence. You got some radical judge who makes a decision.
This can't happen.
That just defies logic. I mean, who in the right mind, whether you're a judge or not, wants known public... TVA, a recognized terrorist organization, sent here by the Maduro regime to create havoc, to unsettle the United States through the use of fentanyl to kill thousands of Americans, violence to American citizens, raping and murdering young women in this country. They are enemies of this country, and President Trump treated them as enemies, and we did exactly what we should have done. Again, President Trump is going to make this country safe again. He's going to do it one illegal alien at a time. And this weekend, we did 261.
So, Tom.
Okay, so 261. I should change the 238, right? 261, according to Tom Homan. Detainees went to El Salvador. And that's, I don't know how you get him back, right? And to his point, once you're in international water, things kind of change. This is a problem, you see, for the Democrats because they're kind of on their hind legs. I don't know how you respond as a Democrat to this and sit there and, to his point and say, well, we're going to defend these, I get it. You can be into the legal principle, this, that, and the other. And maybe, you can argue the case, well, we shouldn't be using the Aliens Enemies Act of 1798. And you can go down that path. But, that's a politically treacherous path to go down because I don't think you're going to find a lot of support from everyday Americans who are like, listen, I just want my neighborhood safe. And if you've got known criminals that have done some really heinous things and they're coming and they're infiltrating here, well, we don't really want them, right? Like this is kind of common sense. And so once again, the Democrats are on their heels and they don't know how to respond. This was amazing to me. So MSNBC, sort of predictably, is always on the wrong side of everything, like everything, all the time. And so in this particular segment from last night, as they were dealing with this issue, you have one of the hosts saying, oh, well, what are you going to do? How can you prevent Venezuelans from being put into internment? She's going on about internment camps and this, that, and the other, because, of course, this is where they go. And Joaquin Jeffries, I mean, he doesn't really seem to know what to say. Even Whoopi Goldberg came out and said she's not for keeping criminals in the United States. Anyway, here's Joaquin trying to deal with this as MSNBC continues to spin its nutty narrative.
Leader Jeffries, President Trump just invoked the Alien Enemies Act to target Venezuelan nationals. We haven't seen this law be used to target a single ethnicity since the Japanese internment. What are you going to do to prevent the next Japanese internment and protect Venezuelans who call this country home?
Listen, we have a broken immigration system. We've got to fix it. We've got to fix it in a comprehensive and bipartisan way. And all of us within the Democratic Party, we oppose illegal immigration. We believe that if you're a violent felon, you should be deported. But we also can't go down this road that the Trump administration is taking us on and potentially deport American citizens, deport legal and lawful permanent residents, and break up law-abiding immigrant families who are contributing to this country. This particular law has only been invoked 3 different times in our nation's almost 250-year history. The War of 1812, World War I, and World War II. There's a reason why it's been limited in its application. Those circumstances do not appear to exist right now, and that's the reason why a court has halted the Trump administration's actions, and we're going to stand strongly in support of the rule of law and its application, which the Trump administration appears to be violating in this particular instance.
So you get what I mean, though. This is a little bit tricky for them, because if they come out against Trump, they're effectively for the gang members. And this is just like not a good position, okay? Just not a good spirit felt. Thank you again. You know, he's joking around about the prisons, right? That they're going to get in El Salvador versus what they would do here. The Democrats would be feeding them steak only, somehow rewarding the prisoners. I mean, it feels like that, spirit filled. It's just been a crazy, crazy sort of time. Quick reminder. I meant to put this up earlier for you guys. If you're interested in investing, and by the way, I believe you should be. Everybody needs to be invested, even when it's rocky, even when things are kind of, that's actually, for me anyway, a buying opportunity. March 2020 was one of the greatest. Go to 76research.com, use code word dollar, and it's just $1 a month for the first 2 months. It goes to $9.95, but you can cancel anytime. In fact, you don't even have to be at $1. So the media is losing it right now over a new poll showing that Americans really don't have a lot of use for Dems. I mean, America's with Trump. Overwhelmingly. This is amazing. This brand new poll, I got to show you. Actually, there's 2 of them. There's one from CNN and there's another one from NBC. And what you see is that Democrat support is totally, utterly cratering. Like they haven't seen anything like this. In fact, in one of the polls, you had something like 29% favorability rating. This would have been from the NBC poll. 29% favorability rating, and they haven't seen anything like that since around 2000. No, like ever. What am I saying? They've never seen anything that low. That's the lowest it's ever been, ever since they've been keeping track of this stuff. And what's amazing is how quickly it's gone down. In 2008, it was 60% favorability, and now look at this. I mean, amazing. And so they reported on it here. I want to show you a brief excerpt.
First of all, the mood of the country. This really jumped out. We asked folks, is it on the right direction or the wrong direction? That 44%, you say right direction, that's up since November. And if that doesn't seem like a lot, the last time it cracked 40%, you got to go back to 2012. The last time it actually hit 44 or higher, January of 2004. So a lot of this is Republicans, but independents, that number is also up since the election on the direction of the country.
Okay, yeah, I mean, the direction of the country is doing pretty well. Just look at egg prices, right? They're coming down, down, down. You look at inflation that's been falling, whether you want to talk about CPI, whether you want to talk about PPI, whether you want to talk about egg prices. Greg Williams pointing out, right, quote, we support the rule of law, LOL, with the left supporting the gangs, LOL, okay, right? Like, I mean, this is one that they're just not going to win any friends on, certainly from the American voting population. And so I think that the media just doesn't quite know what to do with this. Like, really and truly, Democrats have no support from middle America. So it was amazing. They got into this on MSNBC this morning. And you know MSNBC, like, they can't understand this. I mean, they're still sitting there scratching their heads saying, how on earth did we lose so badly, right? Because it really is their team. The Democrat Party is their team. And so they're looking at these poll numbers and they're talking about what a mess the Democrat Party really is right now. And, well, they think they have a solution. You're not going to believe it. I mean, talking about a bunch of inflated egos over there. Wait till you hear what their solution is, but also hear their pain.
Who is that person?
That's the question.
Well,
because it's not going to be founded from the legislative, the branch of the Senate or the House of Representatives. They're not fixed to pick an outside spokesman. Schumer's not an outside spokesman. Hakeem Jeffries turns out not to be an outside spokesman. So somebody has to come up. Chris Murphy's tried to do it, but he doesn't have the stature or the authority to do it. He's just another senator.
Buttigieg? He's got the skills.
Maybe, but he's running for president. He is running for president.
Oh, but that maybe.
Well, I mean, I think that's a fact. I don't know why they haven't put together a group and said, you guys, you people, speak for the party. Get out there and do that. I mean, I agree with you on Schumer. The Schumer question is a small part of this.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you talk to people on the very progressive side of the Senate, they'll tell you it's a close call.
It's a close call.
And by the way, if we're sitting here 2 months after the government shut down and it's all being blamed on Democrats, the numbers will even be lower than we just saw.
That's why I agree. There should be an exciting a construct in which they push back on facts. Just stick to the facts. I don't want to hear your feelings, especially from far left-wing Democrats. I don't want to hear laughing or, you know, derisive laughter. I don't want to hear anything except the facts and where the Republican Party.
You were so right about that.
I don't want to hear your feelings.
The derisive laughter, the way you use laughter to insinuate an attack.
No.
And you don't even laugh. People both sides do this.
Yes.
They laugh in a kind of a humiliating way about their opponents instead of, you know, you watch Gutfeld at night. All it is making fun of Democrats.
Yeah, if you're triggered, I don't want to hear it. I want to hear the facts. I want to hear where our democracy is slowly being broken down, how and why. I want to hear it from Democrats. I want to hear it from a very inspiring figure who can stand up for democracy and put all the garbage, all the bickering, all the name-calling, all the emotion aside and stand up just for the country.
That's us, not them. I mean, just to be... nobody cares what the Democrats say right now because the Democrats have no power. If anybody's going to be bringing the facts and have any credibility to do it, what little credibility we have left, it's us in the media, it's us in civil society. The idea that before a primary, there is some Democrat who is going to rise up and save us, some Buttigieg, Westmore, Josh Shapiro, Gretchen Whitmer, it won't happen.
Okay, so there's a few things to unpack. Are there not there? I mean, first of all, she seemed like she was about ready to cry. I mean, that was like a total meltdown. We need facts, we need facts, we need facts. We don't need hysteria, we don't need crying. And I'm like, aren't you about to cry? Like, get a hold of yourself. It's only 6 a.m. or whatever it is when they're on. And then you got Ezra Klein there, who's, you know, maybe some independent journalist now. He's like published a book. I don't know what he's doing. I think he used to be at Time magazine. But anyway, he's on there as a guest. He's like, we're the answer. We're the answer. We self-important people. We're it. We're going to lead the way forward after she suggests all these other people and like nobody's going to work. So Ezra's like, it's us.
I mean, just to be... nobody cares what the Democrats say right now because the Democrats have no power. If anybody's going to be bringing the facts and have any credibility to do it, what little credibility we have left, it's us in the media, it's us in civil society. The idea that before a primary, there is some Democrat who is going to rise up and save us, some Buttigieg, Westmore, Josh Shapiro, Gretchen Whitmer, it won't happen.
Now, he's not entirely wrong, right? There is no Buttigieg. There is no, I mean, good luck. They're freaking out because Gavin Newsom, who's the guy they probably should have run if they were smart instead of Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom is getting attacked on The View because he dared to have Steve Bannon on his show, because he dared to tell Charlie Kirk that, maybe playing sports as a young woman against somebody who's a naturally born male is not a good thing to do. He got torn to shreds over that. And I'm like, okay, so you guys just don't want to win, right? You want to take your ball and go home because you actually have some people in the Democrat Party that might be willing to actually stand up for something a little bit different. But no, Ezra, you think it's you. Okay, you're gonna solve all the issues, you and all your little friends there on MSNBC on Morning Joe. Don't forget, Morning Joe was one of those shows with all the hysteria and all the crying. I played that soundbite for you guys over and over again. Remember right before the election of Joe Scarborough losing it on set. Well, actually, it was at some event with Al Sharpton and screaming on and on about Hitler and fascism and this, that, and the other. He was losing it, okay? So you want to talk emotion? Now she suddenly wants to get back to facts? I don't know. So was this a dig at AOC? Or was this a dig at some of her former co-hosts? I was kind of wondering that. So the wife of Joey, right, on the Morning Joe show, really, really seemed to be taking a dig at anybody who gets emotional about things, all while getting very emotional herself. And I just wondered if maybe she had something to do with Joy Reid's firing. And maybe she's angling for Rachel. I don't know. Next, there was a schism, right? Don't forget there, between the people that thought it made sense, like Mika and Joe, for their own self-preservation, to go down to Mar-a-Lago and kiss the ring, this, that, and the other, because they still want to have access to power. They still want to be close to power, still close to decision makers. And then there were the Joy Reids of the world who were just flipping out saying, okay, don't go to your Thanksgiving dinner. Don't go to Christmas dinner if your relatives voted for Trump. Crazy stuff. But, she was always going on in sort of a hysterical way. And Mika seems to be calling her out, seems to also be calling AOC out, which one of you guys noted in the comments. Let's watch that again.
There should be an exciting construct in which they push back on facts. Just stick to the facts. I don't want to hear your feelings, especially from far left-wing Democrats. I don't want to hear laughing or, derisive laughter. I don't want to hear anything except the facts and where the Republican Party...
You were so right about that.
I don't want to hear your feelings.
The derisive laughter, the way you use laughter to insinuate an attack.
No.
And you don't even laugh.
Right. So it kind of makes you wonder. Just exactly what she pled to the bosses there at MSNBC to get rid of this one.
My show had value, and that, I'm sorry. That,
okay, no, it didn't. So I might actually be with Mika on that one, right? She wasn't doing MSNBC any favors. And there are a few others that were out as well. Lester probably for different reasons, but there were a few, this Iman guy. I don't know about Katie Fang. Maybe Jonathan Capehart was another that was sort of just over the top emotional about all these things. And I think that there is a desire among those on that morning show to try and remake MSNBC in a way that's a little less embarrassing, which is why they went down to Mar-a-Lago and why they're trying to think about, okay, what's next for the Democrat Party? And I'm sorry, guys, I don't think you get anything. I think you've completely missed the station over and over and over again because the Trump machine is just outsmarting you. It's like they have empathy over there. They get what everyday Americans are going through. You sit there and try and tell us inflation is just in our head. And people are like, no, actually, have you seen the price of eggs, which, by the way, are coming down along with CPI, Consumer Price Index, along with PPI. So that's the good news. But what they can't get over here is that this poll shows Americans are with Trump. And, I just think that MSNBC is really lost and it has to find its way, much like, of course, the Democrat Party has to find its way. I want to do a little bit more on that. Plus, I get to take you back to 2008 when Hillary Clinton was saying a few things about immigration that I think actually cost the party significantly. But before I do, a reminder that the show is brought to you in part by our friends at Balance in Nature. You can call them at 1-800-246-8751, 1-800-246-8751. Balance of Nature. I take my fruits and veggies, my gummies every single day. Finally taking my multivitamin again after all these years. I used to take it as a kid, but until these guys came into my life, I wasn't doing it. I do think it's actually super beneficial. That, water, and exercise. So listen, I think it's great. I swear by it. I think a lot of people do. You can go check on the website for more information. They've been in business for 20 some odd years. There's thousands of testimonials. They put out thousands of fruits and gummies. And by the way, fruits and gummies are not the only fruits and veggies. Forgive me. They are gummies. That's why I keep saying that, but fruits and veggies, they are gummies that I take, gluten-free, by the way. You can go take a look. There's a lot of testimonials. A lot of people really like it. And there's more than just the fruits and veggies. They have other products there too. So do me a favor, use code word Trish when you do. Balanceinnature.com, code word Trish, call them at 1-800-246-8751. So Democrat popularity is sinking to an all-time low, and I'm just wondering, like, what is the reason, right? And I know, you know, we have a host of reasons. We have a host of reasons. One is the economy, right? The economy's stupid, and that is pretty clear, pretty evident. I also think, though, you know, it might have a little something to do with inflation, because I was looking at these statistics. So they're at 29% popularity right now. 29%, meaning, like, that's really bad. They were at 60%. I'm going to show you a moment in time when they were at 60%. And, you know, ask yourself, does this have anything to do with it? I think their economic policy has been a train wreck. I think their immigration policy has been a train wreck. And I think that maybe some of it started with a very unpopular candidate who, in and of herself, was a train wreck.
So I think we got to have tough conditions. Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked. They're gone. If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes, and you have to try to learn English, and you have to wait in line.
So that was sort of a path toward citizenship, right? And I think that maybe turned a lot of people off. And so the popularity ranking has just sunk and sunk and sunk. You know, Byron Donalds was trying to explain this in over the weekend, and he was trying to explain sort of the lack of support from Black America in the Democrat Party, which they used to kind of take for granted. Like, that was their base. And Byron's like, you know, don't just assume because somebody's Black that they're going to vote Democrat. Things have really changed, and they've just lost that Black demographic along the way. Here's his explanation. By the way, he's running for the governor of Florida. I think this is fantastic. I'm a big Byron fan, as you know, and he's been on the show a bunch. Very, very talented, very smart guy. And he just got a huge endorsement from none other than the President of the United States, Donald Trump, endorsing Byron Donalds for the governorship there in Florida. Here he is talking about this sort of disconnect between the historic voting base for the Democrat Party and where we are today.
The reason why is because we don't fit the narrative that the media has been trying to sell people in our country, that the Democrat Party is the only home for Black people. That's simply not true, simply not the case. As a matter of fact, Black people are actually more conservative than the Democrat Party is. So when you see a Mia Love, or you see a Tim Scott, or you see myself and so many others come along, they have to vilify us. They have to demonize us. But we have the ability to push back, because our conservatism really is it's not for the microphones. This is something that we've had to develop over the course of our lives. I got into politics when I was 30. That's when I realized that I was a conservative. And then I had to be able to sell that, not just to myself and convince myself, but to convince people in my community to support me. That's why the media has to vilify us and destroy us, but it's not going to work. We're not going to stop.
No, he's not stopping. He's running for governor of Florida. So we wish him very, very well. But, you know, there's a lot of reasons for the plunge. I think they've just gotten so disconnected from what everyday life is like. They don't understand the effects of inflation on working America. They don't even understand working America, right? They're living in their academic woke towers, or in their media centers, or in La La Land, Hollywood. They just don't understand sort of regular folks anymore. And Donald Trump does. And I think that Donald Trump has insisted that everyone around him appreciate and understand that working class. And so that's where you're seeing this disconnect. And until they actually get a handle on that, and that's why actually Gavin's sitting down with Steve Bannon was smart. Really, really, really smart. I mean, hey, by the way, we got a big holiday going on today. You see, I got my green. Always. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. It's a very important holiday to me because I am quite a bit Irish. I have spent a lot of time in Ireland recently, which has just been amazing. It is an incredible, incredible, incredible country. I'm going back again this summer. I absolutely love it. I have a daughter who does Irish step dancing, so we're like really into Ireland in my family. And I didn't have a choice. Like growing up, this was the biggest holiday. I'm actually traveling and my mom's with us right now, so she's got all the Irish like green beads and the light up pins and stuff. Like if I really wanted to do it up, I could, but I'm sparing you that. Anyway, there was an interesting person there at the White House today from Ireland, Irish fighter Colin McGregor, who wants to wish you a happy birthday.
Happy Paddy's Day, America!
A happy Paddy's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you as well. Colin McGregor, he's actually being talked about potentially as a presidential candidate there in Ireland, which is interesting. He's actually considered pretty divisive in Ireland, surprise, surprise, in part because he's made a big deal about the immigration crisis. Don't forget, Northern Ireland is connected to Southern Ireland right now, right? And they have a very porous border. And so the UK has sent over a ton of people that they have been taking in to the UK from Africa, from the Middle East, and they have been then shipping them into Northern Ireland. And so if you go to Belfast, for example, it's sort of wild. Like you'll see a lot of people that don't really look Irish, it was sort of surprising for me. If you go to Southern Ireland, very, very, very different story. But even in Dublin now, it's become so multicultural, and it's been challenging for some of the Irish. I played a clip, I think on Thursday of last week, of a woman who's been traveling into the countryside every weekend to warn families of this. The demographics are shifting, and in a way that doesn't really appreciate Irish culture. And listen, I know this as someone who's very Irish, the culture is everything. Like it's really, really, really important to people from Ireland, so much so that they even have communities where they still speak Irish. I'm actually from one of them. My family is. And that's the language that the kids study in, because they're desperately trying to hold on to what is theirs because it was taken by the British, right? They couldn't speak in their own language because the British took that. And now you look at what's going on, and I think they've got a new challenge there with the immigration crisis that's going to slowly start to permeate through the rest of the island that is ironically sort of, or perhaps perversely, part of the UK's doing as well, sending them right back, right, into that trouble zone. Here's Colin McGregor, Connor, speaking there at the White House with Caroline. Wow. So that's interesting to me. I don't think that has caught on throughout all of Ireland. He is considered a controversial figure, and a lot of people say he won't be able to run for the main gig because he needs support from 20 official people there in Parliament already, and he's not going to get that support. But he's cluing in on something that I don't think the entire country understands just yet, but you're probably going to see more and more of this in the coming years. Ireland is such a wonderful place, and the people are so incredibly welcoming, but they run risks of being effectively the next Sweden, right? If they don't understand what's at stake. And for a country that prides themselves on their language, on their history, on their culture, I think it's going to be hard to share all that. And not just share, I think they'd happily share, right? Everybody's Irish on St. Patrick's Day, as we always say. It's going to be hard for them to give that up. And that's the risk. And, before you say, that's not going to happen, look, you go around the world and that's happened everywhere. You go to Germany, for example, and now they have to have separate swimming hours for men and women in the pools because the Muslim population that came in, the men didn't understand seeing women in swimsuits in the, sort of the equivalent of the YMCA, just their local pools. And this was something that was sort of a historic thing. You'd go swimming with your family, you'd go swim. And then they had to change that. And I'm like, wait a second. So you're changing your culture to be able to fit something else. And I think Sweden's run the same risk. I have a friend from there who told me they were told not to wear Swedish flags on their jerseys. And it's like, wait a second, you're in your own country, for goodness sake. So I think McGregor is on to something. And while people might be resistant to him right now, he is an Irish fighter, as they say, so watch out. He may have a big political future ahead of him. Quick reminder, everyone, go to 76 Research, my company. Get that with code word $. Also, go check out our friends there at American Heart for Gold, who is a wonderful sponsor of the Trish Regan show, and you can get up to $15,000 in free silver if you have a qualifying gold offer. So check it out at trishlovesgold.com or text them at Trish. Just send my name to 65532. And it's good to have you here. I will be back again tomorrow. I could not miss today. I almost did because of the travel situation. But I was like, oh my gosh, we just have so much that we have to get to. Billy Rice, Mike Costa, good to see you. David, all of you guys back here in the house. Leslie was one of the first I saw right away. It is really David Longo as well. Wonderful to see you all. I will be right back here, hopefully at a more normal time tomorrow. See you then. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Have a good one. Make sure you wear your green.